My fiancé and I are getting married in a few months, and our wedding is on a Saturday. It's 3 days after his niece's 6th birthday. He has 2 nieces while I have 1. When we booked the date, we were aware that it was close to her birthday, but we figured because it was not on her actual date, it would be fine. His sister has recently asked if we could make our wedding a little bit more special for her daughter. She asked if she could pick out the dresses, for her to wear a tiara while the other 2 have simple headbands, and invite 1 school friend and 30 minutes to an hour of her music playing. She also wanted people to sing happy birthday to her. We said no to this. We want the flower girl dresses to all look the same and to go with the color scheme. Plus, we know that if the other girls see her wear a tiara, then they will also want one. We don't want some kid at our wedding who is not with their own parents. As for the music, it would be annoying, but all guests are welcome to request songs to the DJ. And I told her we can sing happy birthday after we cut our cake and we can bring her out a little cupcake. My sister-in-law is unhappy about this because our wedding means her daughter will not get a birthday party that year. And she thinks waiting until the weekend after is too long and it will upset her daughter. My partner is starting to cave, but I don't want to budge. He feels bad in the situation, but I don't. Am I wrong for not having a birthday party at my work? Once when I was around 6 or 7, my mom brought home some delicious chocolate and gave some to me. I loved the stuff and stole the bar that she had saved for my stepdad. He comes home and my mom can't find the chocolate. She asked me what happened to it. I blamed the dog Duncan, knowing that he often eats things off the counter. I didn't know at the time that chocolate was toxic for dogs. My mom goes terribly pale and rushes Duncan to the vet, and he has to throw up. I felt terrible about this, and I thought it was because he stole the chocolate and was some form of punishment. So the next day she brings home more chocolate, and nobody told me that it was for Duncan's own good that he was taken to the vet. So feeling bad for doing this to Duncan, I gave him my chocolate, this time thinking he deserved it after taking one for the team. Later that night, my mom asked me how the chocolate was, and this time I decided to tell the full truth and explain that I gave the chocolate to Duncan this time as I felt bad for getting him in trouble yesterday. So after another late night trip to the vet, I was finally told that chocolate is toxic for dogs. Duncan was fine in the end. Now the twist is that the very expensive vet trips cost a lot of money, which prompted my mom to take a look at our expenses. That's how she found out our stepdad was hiding an affair and then got a divorce.
Why you should be really careful how you treat people. And also why you should stick up for people. When I was in 8th grade, I was really good friends with this kid named Damon. Me, him, and this other friend of mine, we were all at the same table. In English class, we would joke around, talk about the same TV shows and movies. We were the loudest group by far. But near the end of the school year, Damon ended up moving. And it really sucked, but we said goodbye to Damon, who I should tell you was this small, short, funny, wisecracking kid. Didn't matter what you threw at him, he was super witty. So we said goodbye to him, we all went to 9th grade. It was either the end of 9th grade or the middle of sophomore year that I saw Damon again. He had transferred back to our school, saw him at a pep rally, and I was sitting by myself because I despise pep rally. He was like, Josadak, do you remember me? I was like, oh my gosh, David? He was so much taller, face looked different, his voice was deeper. This was obviously a different kid, but really happy to see me. So we started talking, catching up. Then I started noticing that he was getting hit in the back of the head with tiny paper balls. He wasn't even flinching. I looked behind me to see 3 boys throwing paper balls at him. What? Dude, do you see what they're doing? Yeah, I'm used to it. What? This was not the same witty boy that I knew. Oh god, I'm running out of time. Watch part 2 to see my...
When I was younger, my mom gave me a hug one morning and felt that I had lumps all around my rib cage and underneath my armpits. Right away, she thought tumors, and then her mind went to cancer. I was a little kid. I honestly didn't understand what was going on. She drove us right to the hospital, and after a couple tests, they ruled out cancer, but they said that truthfully, they didn't know what was wrong with me. A little while after, an intern came to check on me and noticed I had cuts and scratches all over my legs and my arms. He asked if I had a cat, and I replied with yes. Then it was official. They diagnosed me with cat scratch fever, a bacterial disease from cat scratches, so bet you didn't know that existed.
Storytime. My date doesn't pay her bill. I get to the restaurant 10 minutes early, and she's already there eating appetizers. Then she goes ahead and orders the most expensive dinner on the menu, and tells me that she did it because she knows that I'm paying. Small talk fails, and for 45 minutes she complains about how no one is refilling her wine glass. She mentions how she was told that I make a decent salary multiple times. I try to be civil and change the subject. Awkward conversational topics ensue, nothing even close to first date etiquette follows. 3/4 of the way through, I go to the bathroom, and our waiter walks by, asking me if we're doing a reality show or something along those lines, since he has seen this disaster in motion. We talk about how wild this woman is for about 5 minutes, and then I ask him to stop at our table and ask about the bill. I immediately say split checks and give him $80, roughly $40 for my bill and $40 for his tip. The date looks shocked and ended up not being able to pay her bill, so the friend...
Part 2 of how I made my high school bully's dad my sugar daddy. I began chatting back and forth with Claire's dad through the dating app. He was twice my age, but he was handsome, and given the circumstances, I had to give this my best shot. He told me he was looking for a beautiful girl to spoil and spend time with, and made it very clear that he was interested in me. After talking for a few weeks, we set up our first date, which was dinner at a nice restaurant, followed by shopping. I knew this man had money because I remember Claire being one of the rich girls at school, and I was right. He took me to the Louis store and let me pick out any bag I wanted. We kept talking and it was working out really nicely for me. He would send me money every week for makeup, to get my nails and hair done, or for whatever else I needed in between dates. dates. One week he said he couldn't go on our usual Saturday night outing because his daughter was coming over for dinner. I was not going to waste this opportunity. I told him how much I was looking forward to seeing him and asked if I could join them. He was hesitant at first, but I eventually talked him into it. I'll never forget the look on Claire's face when I walked in and kissed her dad. I showed Claire the new purse that her dad had bought me and bragged about how well he's always treating me. She was fuming and stormed out shortly after. To this day, he's still my sugar daddy and Claire hates everything about it.
So this couple comes in together to buy an engagement ring, and they had a budget of about $20,000, which is a lot for an engagement ring. But the ring that she happened to pick out was about $35,000, which is a lot of money. And she was really adamant about picking it, and he was kind of reserved, like, it is a lot of money. But she was like, no, if you love me, you'll buy it, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you know what? You're gonna be my wife, the mother of my kids, whatever makes you happy. So after they finally decide, I pack it up for them. I'm like, here you go. Have a great marriage. Have a great life. Goodbye. About 3 weeks later, the fiance comes in, and I'm thinking she just wants to get the ring size or something. And she's like, can you guys take out the diamond and replace it with a cubic zirconium? Cubic zirconium is a very cheap substitute for a diamond. So I was like, yeah, we can do that, but just give us 2 or 3 days. So she leaves, and I call her fiance because I was like, oh, this is really suspicious. And he had no idea that she came into the shop or that she was coming in. So he calls me 2 days later, and he finds out that she was going to break up with him. She would have kept that diamond, and she would have given him the fake one. He would have returned it, and he would have gotten no money back. Talk about
Today's storytime topic is cheating. Now, cheating is an evil thing, alright? If you're gonna date somebody, just be loyal. It's not that hard. And if you don't want to date them, don't date them. It's that simple. But sadly, some people in this world are indecisive as hell and they cheat on people, and it's not a good thing. I'm sure most of you guys are very loyal people, so I'm not really speaking about you, but some people in this world that I've met aren't so loyal. And yeah, today's story time is about one of those people. So yeah, let's jump into it. So this story time takes place in 2016, okay? Now 2016, pretty good year, some crazy things happened that year, but for the most part, it was an awesome year. I don't have many complaints. But I have a friend, okay? Let's just call this friend Jonathan. Now, Jonathan had been dating this girl since 2014, and he was like totally in love with her. They were like high school sweethearts. Like, loved this girl. She seemed to have loved him. They seemed like they were in a very happy relationship. And yeah, I was happy for both of them. They were both friends of mine. And honestly, I never saw anything bad happening to the relationship at all. And yeah, one day, Jonathan comes up to me in 2016. We're at a party, and he goes, yo.
Part 2 of the worst customer ever. After she requested to speak to the manager, I went to get the shift lead and explain the situation. He immediately knew what customer I was referring to. My manager went to speak to her as I remade her drink a 4th time. She demanded that the drink be free and that we also let her pick a food item on the house for wasting her time. When we refused, she went ballistic and started screaming that she would never come here again and that we lost a customer. She demanded that we get the owner of the store down here immediately and said that she wouldn't leave until the owner arrives. We told her that she would have to leave or we would call the cops. She continued screaming at us, took the drink without paying, and knocked over one of the displays on her way out. My manager said that this customer complained almost every day, told me I'm doing a good job, and thanked me for finally getting rid of a Karen. I couldn't believe my eyes when she came back a few days later. I was dreading having to take her order again. To my surprise, my manager confronted her about not paying the other day and knocking over our display. He then asked her to leave, but she went crazy again and refused to leave, and this time we did have to call the cops. Ultimately, she left before the police came and hasn't been.
Part 2 about the girl who was obsessed with me. So like I said, she basically told me that those were her nudes, even though I took the pictures and I knew they were mine. But I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not gonna argue with her. Well, then I get a text from my boyfriend, and he goes, what the fuck, you're so weird, why would you send me somebody else's nudes? And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck? And I tried to explain to him that I had no fucking clue why this girl was saying they were hers. But then he said that I was weird as fuck and he broke up with me. So like a week later, I see them walking around school together. And my friends tell me that they're now dating. And I really wasn't that mad about it. I was like, okay, maybe that's the only way that she could think of to get a boyfriend. Well, I forgot that my Instagram was logged in on his phone because he had super bad trust issues and wanted to make sure I wasn't cheating on him. So I text him and I'm like, hey, can you take my Instagram off your phone? And I saw that he read my text message, but I got no response. Well, a week later, you guys are never gonna guess what fucking happened, like for part 3.
This is why waking up late might just save your life. One day when I was in elementary school, my mom and I both overslept, which meant I wouldn't be ready in time to get on the bus. School started at 8, my bus pickup time was at 7, and it was already 6:40 or something. I was still in my PJs and hadn't even had breakfast yet. My mom decided that today we would just tell the bus driver to go on ahead and she would take me to school, which would give me plenty of time to get ready. It's 6:50, I'm in my PJs, eating breakfast, and that's when we hear the bus pull up 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. My mom peeks her head out of the door into the foggy morning and waves the bus on. She closed the door and came back inside, but the bus didn't pull away. There's a knock at the door, and my mom opens it to find a man in a bus driver uniform. He explains he's a substitute bus driver because the regular driver called in sick, and that he's early because he wanted to get an early start on the route. My mom says she's taking me to school because we woke up late. He gets visibly upset and says he can wait a few minutes since he's already ahead of schedule. My mom says that we won't be ready in a few minutes and tells him to go on ahead. He seemed really angry about this, but turned around, got back on the bus, and left. But at 7 a.m., another bus pulls up to my house. My mom went out to talk to them and came back looking terror.
I'm just gonna say this. Always trust your gut. I had a feeling my neighbour's girlfriend was setting me up because she was fully convinced that I wanted to cheat with her boyfriend. She literally pretended to be her boyfriend, sending me a note asking me to meet in McDonald's drive-thru. Well, she got the shock of her life when she was banging on my car door and my boyfriend jumped up from underneath the coat. She nearly jumped clear out of her skin. She said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Why wouldn't I be here? I'm her boyfriend. Now listen up to me, little girl. You better stop annoying us. She doesn't want anything to do with your boyfriend. Now toddle along home and leave us alone." So we got Happy Meals after that because we were happy. But that was short-lived because I wasn't prepared for what I was going to find when I drove home. I get out of my car and on my doorstep there's a lighting candle with a circle of salt around it, and then there's this weird doll looking thing. Now I'm no expert, but I do believe I've just been cursed.
Part 2 about how my gym teacher's wife found out that he was having an affair with me. So like I said, his wife was supposed to be gone the whole night because she was at the bar with her friends and they were supposed to get in a hotel. So he invited me over. So we went swimming in his pool, then we did the nasty. Well, a few hours later, him and I were sitting on the couch watching a movie. And his wife kept calling him. But he just kept ignoring it, saying that she was fine and he didn't want to answer the call and ruin our time together. So we go upstairs, lay down to go to sleep. And it's like 4 a.m. at this point. So I shit you not, literally an hour later, I wake up to his wife carefully shaking me to wake me up. She goes, "Honey, come downstairs. I don't want to wake him up. He has work tomorrow." And I'm like, what the actual fuck? So I went downstairs and she's like, "Sit at the table with me." So we're sitting at the table and she's like, "I hope that we can keep this quiet." She was like, "My husband's done this before. And that she can't have any of her friends knowing or anybody at school because she's a PTA mom." So she offered me money to keep my mouth shut. And then she let me go back upstairs and lay with him. What the fuck?
Okay, here's part 2 of the friend story since you guys wanted it so badly.
All she texted me was that she went to his house, and then she said she would tell me the rest in person. That's all I got to know at the time, so I had to wait a few days. When I finally got to see her again, she told me that this guy added her on Snapchat, and they had been talking nonstop through Snap and FaceTime for a week. The day that I saw them together was the second time that they were hanging out in person. All that happened was he bought her Starbucks, and then they went back to his house where very innocent things happened, like wholesome dancing, trying on hoodies, and watching movies. He even tried to give her one of his hoodies, which she politely declined, but then he gave it to her anyways a few days later on her birthday by hiding it in the present that he gave her. They continued to talk every day and spend time together, and now they've been dating for over 2 months, and the relationship is literally perfect. It sounds like a relationship from a movie, and I'm so happy for them. So yeah, that's the story.
Hey guys, this is a red velvet Oreo cake I made a couple months ago. So it's my red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting and then my Oreo filling. So I just started by stacking up all the layers and doing my crumb coat as usual. Then after that was frozen, I used my acrylic disc to help me get the outer layer of cream cheese frosting on the cake. Once that was smooth, I froze it again, and then I removed the acrylic disc and added more frosting on the tops and sides until they were smooth and until the corners were clean. Then for decorations, this was for one of my best friend's graduation cakes, and she wanted it really simple and floral, so she wanted an A and then just some like hearts and leaves, so that's what I did. This is the final product. I loved how it turned out. It was super elegant and simple, and she loved it for her party.
Am I the asshole for sleeping with my friend's boyfriend? So a couple months ago, my friend and I went to a karaoke bar and we met this really cute guy. He was very sweet and we both were really attracted to him, and he was obviously attracted to the both of us. Last week, I went to the same bar by myself and he was there alone as well. We hung out all night. When the night ended, he asked if I wanted to hang out. I said yes, of course, and he texted me the address. The address ended up being a 5-star hotel, which I had no idea was a hotel. I ended up going to his hotel room, and things escalated from there. We ended up drinking a lot of wine, watched movies, and eventually ended up sleeping with each other. In the morning, we went our separate ways. 4 days later, my friend sent me a cute video of her kissing him on the cheek and confirming that they were in a relationship. I was shocked. I obviously had no idea and the guilt kicked in. I hadn't yet told her about that night, so I confessed to her. She started going off on me and calling me a bad friend because I knew she liked him. And I honestly did not know that she liked him that much. She was super pissed at me and making me feel like a slut for sleeping with her boyfriend, even though they weren't technically together yet. I really feel like she should blame him and not me, since I generally did not know about their relationship. But I don't know.
I've always had a good relationship with my mother-in-law up until I was pregnant. My husband's side of the family hasn't had a girl born in the past 100 years. So when everyone found out I was pregnant with a girl, no one believed me. Everyone was so shocked when it was announced that most of them denied it up until the moment she was born. And that's when the horrible comments started. Whenever my husband wasn't around, my mother-in-law would make snarky comments like, "I wonder where she got that nose. It's definitely not my son's." I never told him and let everything slide because she's older and she's my mother-in-law. But when I was pregnant with baby number 2, and yes, it was another girl, I told him to wait as long as possible because I know she wouldn't like the news. When she found out it was a girl, she started sobbing and screaming. She was calling me a whore and demanded that I get out of her house. "Those girls are not ours. She's a whore, a slut. My son did not make those girls." She looked at me and said, "I let you get away with it the first time. I took you in as family. I allowed my son to believe he fathered that brat, but I will not allow it again." My husband was yelling at his mom, and I got up and took my daughter and I ran to the car sobbing. My sister and I have always been mistaken as twins. I'm 19 and she's 16, but we have the same height, skin tone, and similar voice. She also has a habit of being a copycat, from the way I dress to hobbies, even piercings. I know it's cute if you look at it from the outside, but sometimes it gets annoying. Like, yeah, we are quite close too, but why does she always happen to pick up everything I pick up? One afternoon, I was tidying up some costumes in my college showroom and found a rather cute brown and pink wig. It looks like a mushroom. I put it on, think it looks rather funny, so I snapped a picture and posted it to my Instagram. I received a text from my sister asking if I really cut my hair. I didn't mention it was a wig. While I somewhat have a feeling that she might copy that too, I lied and replied yes. I came home that weekend and lo and behold, my sister emerged with the same silly brown and pink bob cut, except this one is on her permanent hair. She was surprised that I arrived with my hair still long, then realized that I liked her. She was furious that she had to cut that silly hairstyle because she thought I had it. Our parents think that it's a really bad joke and wanted me to cut my hair too to make it up to her. So am I the asshole for telling my sister I cut my hair when I really didn't? Am I wrong for wanting to have my wedding even though my sister lost her baby? A week before my wedding, my sister found out she miscarried at 5 months. Obviously, I was very upset for her as losing a baby can be very tough, especially because it was her first baby. But I didn't want it to end up being more important than my wedding. 3 days before my wedding, my sister announces at a family gathering that she wants my wedding to be canceled and changed to a funeral for her baby. I was so upset that she would even ask this. I had been waiting months for my wedding and her miscarriage happened so soon. She burst into tears in front of our family, saying I could wait a few months for my wedding, but she couldn't delay her baby's funeral. I got so mad I stormed off. My whole family took her side, telling me to cancel my wedding, even though I had arranged and bought everything. Even my dress and venue was ready, so I couldn't just cancel. I ended up cutting off all of my family and only a few remained to attend my wedding. My sister hasn't spoken to me in years and neither has my family. In my opinion, if my sister loses a baby like a week before my wedding, like I wouldn't have it. That's just me.
You guys are not even going to believe it when I say that when I was 15, I almost became a stepmom. Yes, we did skip a few chapters, so let's start from the beginning of the book. Back in the day, in middle school, there was this new bad boy in town. And for the purpose of the story, his name will be Dean. So Dean was a little bit older, but he would date some of the middle school girls. A little sus, I know, but even beyond this man had a bad reputation. And I did my best to stay away from guys like him. That was until the second quarter of my sophomore year in high school happened. And while my mom and I were walking around Walmart looking for a pair of jeans, we ran into Dean's mom. Well, our mom started talking and bonded really well. And that's when his mom suggested that we would be a really cute couple. She talked about how much he's changed, so I went ahead and added him on Snap. And the insane thing is that we actually started having really good conversation. Like deep existential ones. But one night I was bored and started to creep on his Instagram account. And I came across a gender reveal photo. This man had a whole son on the way. And I accidentally liked the photo and that's when I got a text from Dean saying, "Go ahead, ask me."